So understand that the young lady that you saw, this is what has occurred or has occurred within our tribal people that was not supposed to be, and we're going to learn about that. Then after we kind of go over this, we're going to get into how to reverse what has been going on. It says, and the Babylonians came to her into the bed of love, and they defiled her. She wasn't defiled by them. They defiled her with their whoredoms, and she was polluted with them, and her mind was alienated from them. See, okay, when we go back and we view the picture of this young girl, if you look at her, she's a very young girl. See, this nonsense starts when they're young. And if you look at both this young lady here, you can tell she's probably not even a teenager yet. She's probably younger than a teenager. And she might just be around the age of a teenager. Okay, they started this nonsense very young. Of raping these young girls. And so by the time this young girl became a woman, by the time she rose up and became a woman, as you can see, the young girl was very nervous, very unsure about what was going on. But by the time she has been raped enough throughout her life, she's submissive now. Look at how her hand is hugging him. And he's being held back. He's being held back with the whip while he has to watch this woman that he wants to be with be involved. And this is just an image. But as she's being a grown woman now, she's not as afraid or resistant as she was, as the young girl was back in her youth, being a virgin or being just newly exposed to these types of abuses. And as a result of these types of abuses, the seed, the holy seed, has become polluted. As it states here, and she was polluted with them. Her seed, her natural Afro bloodline tribal seed became mixed. And as a result, she's not the pure, for the most part, most of us who have come over here as slaves and our foremothers have undergone such treatment, rapes and different things, a lot of us are not pure anymore. So we have been polluted. Our bloodline has been polluted. We are not the pure Afro bloodline that we at one time was. So now we'll go to where it was made known what was to be the case regarding us. This here and it's not about being prejudiced, it's just the truth. It's not about disliking anyone or speaking against anyone, it's just the truth. Okay, it says here, and the rest of the people, the priests, the Levites, the porters, the singers, the Nethinims, and all they that had separated themselves from the people of the land unto the law of God, their wives, their sons, and their daughters, everyone having knowledge and having understanding. And they clave unto their what? Unto their brethren their own, within their own tribes, their nobles, and entered into a curse and into an oath to walk in God's law, which was given by Moses, the servant of God, and to observe to do all the commandments of the Lord our God, and his judgments and his statutes. Okay? And that we would not give our daughters unto the people of the land, nor take their daughters for our sons. And if the people of the land bring ware or any victuals, food, on the Sabbath day to sell, that we would not buy it of them on the Sabbath or on the holy day, and that we would leave the 7th year and the extraction of every day. So they made it clear that they were not to mingle their seeds with the people that were around them. That's what that's saying. They were supposed to stick within their own tribes. Okay, and that's basically what they are letting us know there. Now we're going to read something else, just so that we can be clear what they're saying. Okay, so I'm just going to read a few more scriptures about the laws as far as God's people mingling. And believe me, it was not their choice, because if you're a slave and you're actually treated as property and you have no rights, you had no rights to speak on your behalf, you basically was victimized. And whatever they did to you pretty much back in that day, that was just, okay. Well, here's where I'm really just trying to get on this subject here. It says, and ye shall make no league, no agreement with the inhabitants of the land. Ye shall throw down their altars, but ye shall not obey, but ye have not obeyed my voice, why have ye done this? Wherefore I also said, I will not drive them out from before you, but that they should be thorns in your sides, and their God shall be a snare unto you. Okay, so what he's letting us know, we're not supposed to really get involved with the people that are surrounding us, because they're not God's covenant people. They're not under the covenant that we are under. So if we're following a person who is not following God's covenant, they're not following his laws, then they will get you in hot water. Okay? They will cause you problems. Why? Because they're not under the strict laws and guidelines that you are. So when they do whatever they want, you can't do what they do. Okay? You can't follow in the ways that they are going. You cannot do that. Okay? Now, and it says, and Ezra the priest stood up and said unto them, ye have transgressed, and have taken strange wives, to increase the trespass of Israel. Now therefore make confession unto the Lord God of your fathers, of your ancestors, and do his pleasure, and separate yourselves from the people of the land, and from the strange wives. And all the congregation answered and said with a loud voice, as thou hast said, so must we do. So this is a part of what is going to be required of us, because as before, like I said, they're not under the covenant oath that you're under. It says, but the people are many, and it is a time of much rain, and we are not able to stand without, neither is this a work of one or two, for we are many that have transgressed in this thing. Now let our rulers and all our congregations stand, and let them which have taken strange wives in our cities come at appointed times, and with them the elders in every city and the judges thereof, until the fierce wrath of our God for this matter be turned from us. So see, God, it's all kind of stuff that's happening with us because of us not being knowledgeable. And interracial marriages are coming more and more common, because the times have really changed. And people get lonely. People don't want to live alone and by themselves. So I can understand that a person might say, well, our men are few and I'm tired of being lonely. I'm just going to, do something different. I'm going to make a change and do something different. Okay, but I don't really want to say that, you should live alone or lonely. And in my opinion, if you're in love with someone and, you two are good together, if you've tried to date in your race and it just has been one headache after another, I can understand. Believe me, I have been very close to that point. I truly have. So I do understand. But God is more important to me than what my personal feelings desire. So I just try to cling to what He says, to what He wants, what He desires, because He knows what's best for me. If I am under a covenant oath, I have to really be very careful, because if I marry outside of my race, he's not under that covenant oath. So if he gets me strayed, going in the wrong direction, I'm the one that's going to take the licking. And eventually he'll probably move on or keep on ticking or whatever. So you have to understand that you are a covenant people. He can go down a road and he may not get punished, but I go down that same road, being under a covenant with the Lord, I could get in serious trouble. And they gave their hand that they would put away their wives and be guilty. They offered a ram of the flock for their trespasses. So they cleaned up their act. They got rid of the strange wives. So like I said before, as I had spoken earlier, you're going to have to make choices. Sometimes you're going to have to make tough choices in life. You're going to have to make a choice between what you want and what God says. Well, in my opinion, I'm clinging on to the Lord because I know He knows what's best for me. It gave you all the different names of people, and it says, all these had taken strange wives, and some of them had wives by whom they had children. So that means that they had to leave wives and children to get straight with the Lord. And it gives you a list of all the different ones who had partaken of the strange wives. Okay. I'm going to go back into Nehemiah. Well, that's you get the picture. I shouldn't have to show you a million scriptures for you to get that part. Okay, but understand, I do understand that a lot of what has happened has been imposed upon us. That little young girl there, those two young girls there, they could have fought and ended up getting their backs whipped up, So they're in a tight situation. In a very tight situation where If they stand up and say no, they're subject to be slapped and beaten and abused. So, I mean, what could they do? You know, they were caught up in a really unfortunate situation. So now we're going to keep it moving. We want to talk about how to reverse these curses. Okay? We understand that we have been under curse. These curses are definitely no joke. I mean, they went through some things, believe me, lived in terror. Like the Bible, we read a part where it says this here. I mean, can you imagine every day and night you can't wait until it passes? You know, let's go down where it says let's just go even just a little bit, one scripture above this. It says, and thy life shall hang in doubt before thee, and thou shalt fear day and night, and shall have none assurance for thy life. In the morning thou shalt say, would God it were evening. Okay, what do you think will cause you to be, just can't wait for the day to be over with? And then it says, and at the evening thou shalt say, would God it were morning. For the fear of thine heart wherewith thou shalt fear, and for the sight of thine eyes which thou shalt see. Okay, well, let me show some images that I kind of didn't get to show, but that I would like to show, because I want to come back. As a matter of fact, let me show these images, and then I want to go back to the other things. You have to remember, as slavery, they went through some things. Some of them were muzzled like an animal. Kind of looked like a dog collar, doesn't it? I don't know why they would need to have this chain around their neck. If they chained up their hands and their feet, why would they need to have a chain around their neck? But this was horrible, to be treated like this. Some were publicly and in front of all the other slaves humiliated. But you know what's even worse about this picture? The person that is actually, I guess you could say, chastising this guy, this is another Hebrew. This is another black that has been ordered to beat him. This is another black. I mean, they have taught us to be against one another. They have taught us that if we obey like a dog, we get perks. In other words, what's the perk? He don't have to end up being beat like him as long as he does what he's told. That, or he might be the overseer. He might eventually get the, like, it look like this might be the man. I can't tell, the picture's kind of dark. But it looked like he might be the owner that's just watching him do as he say. Instead of him wearing himself down and exerting all of his energy, he tells him to do the work against his own black people. This is what the kind of wrong that we have really gone through. Just being mistreated. This man is hung up by a tree. He's got a pole between his legs where he's got another latch up under there, and he's being just beaten while being strung up. And these are just images of showing what has happened. Here's another image that is really sad to see. A man that is publicly humiliated in his complete nakedness, and they use another black to beat another black. And so when you understand, when you kind of think about why there's so much deception amongst us, And it looks like here he thinks that he's going to be next, looking at the image on his face. But people just stand around. I mean, these are soldiers that are just they just sit around watching. He is on his own. There's not anybody that's trying to help him. But society is really even still kind of like that today, where people mistreat you, as we saw the Hebrews standing in line completely naked. You know, I mean, it's horrible. And here he is laying on the ground, strapped down to the ground while he's being beaten. And this is why every day was horrible. This is a man who shows how he has been just horribly abused. It's sad. It really is. Here's a man here that is naked. And look at all the marks on him. Look at all the scorings on him. Just webs all on his legs. You know, it's just a terrible thing. Then he's standing up there completely nude in front of strangers, just looking at him. I mean, can you imagine how they would feel if that were them, standing up there with strangers just looking at them, you know, in the nude? And this was just something that was done, where people were beat in public, just tied down and beat in public. So yeah, these types of horrible images is why people couldn't wait for the day to pass, because of so much abuse. They used to turn hoses to disperse a crowd or disperse people that were trying to stand up or speak up for their rights. They put a hose on them. You can see he's trying to shield her from the hose. He's trying to protect himself but also shield her, you know. And believe me, that hurts. I mean, you get that powerful water hitting you, that can actually bruise you, if you, how you pronounce it, bruise you. They used to sometimes have dogs that they would have them out there, and sometimes they would put the dogs on people. And this was really a horrible time. You know, back in these days, it was horrible. It was just bad. Then you have also where people worked long hours. This is like a cane field. They cut the cane down. Can you imagine being in a cane? And you know there's subject to be snakes up in there too, right? So when you're in there, you never know what you may kind of run across as far as your life being on the line. You see a big snake, you know, and he could be a dangerous snake. You know, who really wants to fool with this cotton, not knowing if a snake might possibly be in there hidden somewhere, and you know, have to encounter it. So it's terrible. But and then you have to understand that it's hot. It is hot, and these people from sun up to sundown were out here. Yeah, I would be glad that the day would be over with too, if I were out there. Here's a cotton field. That was a sugar cane, and here's cotton. Where you have an overseer, person on a horse just watching to make sure that they pick cotton. You know, and you know, cotton, if you've ever picked cotton, it has like little sharp thorns on it. And if you don't know how to pick it just right, and you get to picking your fingers. If you ever watch the movie 12 Years a Slave, you'll get to view how difficult it can be to pick cotton. Okay, that's a good movie, and it's a true story. It's a true movie. So if you can get a chance, view the movie 12 Years a Slave. I have the movie, but I can't show it to you because I don't have it on me right now. But that's a good movie. I've watched it time and time again. And here are people who are in prison. and they have them working on the railroad. How do I know they're in prison? They're all in prison attire. This is how prison attire looked back then. And they have them doing free labor, where they would do free labor even if they weren't, were not on, incarcerated or in prison. They would more than likely have still done free labor. But for whatever reason, these people are working what's called on the railroad. You might think that's easy work, but no, that's not easy work. So these are just different forms of why people couldn't wait for the day to be over with. I'm just curious as to what I can put in this one. Okay. So I'm going to get back, because I kind of jumped the gun and got off of this thinking I was through, but actually I was not. As you can see, as an adult now, she is more submissive, because from her youth up, she has been violated. And because there was no help for her, she's learned to submit. That's why her arm is around her. If she were still innocent, if she still had the innocence in her, she would be resisting him. But through years of being taken advantage of, she finally realizes she's in a no-win situation, so she has learned to go with the flow. And that's just an image, a depiction. This woman here is obviously a cook, and it shows her the big stove and her different pots around. This image here is of them washing clothes. Hand washing. Today in modern society we have washing machines, but there was a time when they would boil water and actually hand scrub. This is like a scrub board, and they would press up and down on this scrub board. Let me see if I can get that a little closer. And this scrub board, I don't know if you can see that, but she's pushing the clothes up and down on this scrub board to clean the clothes, and she looked like she's got a stick that she's using to pull the clothes up out of a boiling pot, to kind of cook away the germs, so to speak. You know how we wash in hot water? Well, they made hot water, as we saw an example of kindling a fire earlier, that was against God's Sabbath. On God's Sabbath, it would be a violation of God's Sabbath. And of course there was nannies who took care of the kids, washed, combed their hairs, washed their clothes, ironed their clothes, all that type of stuff, and took care of the babies, So, and she's actually nursing. She's actually nursing a baby in the household. She might have had a child, and her child or her baby, when it got weaned from her, they sold the baby off into slavery, and so now she still has milk. And as long as she has, it won't be forever, but she's still obviously producing milk because she's nursing the child. And it's who's to say that she still doesn't have a child? I really don't know. But just speculating the fact that I would assume she's still producing milk. Okay. And this is a photo of how kids look. This middle one reminds me a little bit of buckwheat. Buckwheat that was in the Little Rascals program, because if you ever watch the Little Rascals and you look at buckwheat look like these kids. They dress pretty much like this. Back in the day, slavery kids were poor, and that's just the way that they looked back in the day. They were poor. So we learned that the Hebrew Israelites, according to Deuteronomy 28, verse 68, are the blacks that are dispersed all over the nations in ships. They were transported in ships like a can of sardines. They were just compiled into that ship. If there were a space to put a body, that's where they put it. I mean, look at this. This is just too crazy. These two right here, kind of just wherever they could fit a body. I mean, that is really, really pathetic. So it's not hard to imagine that many of the Israelites didn't survive this journey. It was not a one-night journey. It took them probably months to get where they were going. And can you imagine being transported in ships like this for months, compiled on top of one another? You know, can you imagine? I mean, can they even breathe? Is there even any proper ventilation in there? I mean, it's just really a horrible situation. But we have to understand one thing. God is in control. God is the one who allowed this, and he allowed this. Why? Because we sinned. Okay? We dropped the ball. We sinned. Okay? Our ancestors sinned. You're saying, well, I didn't do it, but you're still suffering as a result of what your ancestors did, so you may as well say that you were partaker in it simply because you are suffering the consequences of their actions. So even if you yourself did not do it, you have committed some sin since you've been born on this earth. And 9 times out of 10, you have violated God's 10 commandments, you know, sometime in your life. We all have. Okay? We all have fallen short of the glory of God. All of us. I'll be the first to tell you I've messed up. You know, there were times I messed up voluntarily. You know, I didn't even have a desire in my heart to do right. God had to get my attention. And it's not to say that I didn't know. You know, it's just that sometimes you go through things in your life and you just start doing you. You start wanting to just go in the direction that you think instead of just holding on to God and clinging on to him. But then later on you learn in life that God kept you from so much. He is what's right for you, not you. You don't know what's right for you. But God knows what's right for you. And so he has taught me along the journey that I've been traveling to trust him. Now I've grown to a mature point in my life where I do trust him. I do. But I want to go over this here. It says, because this is written twice in scripture, and it's written actually more than twice. We've seen wood and stone before. But it says, and the Lord shall bring thee and thy king which thou set over thee unto a nation which neither thou nor thy fathers have known. And there, at that point where God lets them take you, thou shalt serve other gods, wood and stone. Now we'll go down a little further and it's going to say the exact same thing. Why do you think that this is placed twice in the Bible? I mean, kind of, where do you think? I think I passed it up. Let me see. Okay, we just read that. 36. So I think it is further down. Okay, it must be further down. Okay, so we read 36, other gods, wood and stone. 64. Okay, I thought it was 46. No. And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people, from one end of the earth even unto the other, and there thou shalt serve other gods. Thou shalt serve other gods with a little g, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. So in verse 64 and 43 it has that twice. And generally when God is telling you something and he's giving it to you twice, that's probably something you should really pay attention to. Okay, so let's think about some things. This here is an image of Ku Klux Klan. They call themselves Christians, Christian Knights, KKK. Okay, so they are Christians. Okay, although they are murderers and a whole lot of other things, and this is their flyer of wanting to recruit more whites. You can only be white to get into their, I would call it, hate group. They got the women activists that have their own little, I guess, togetherness or whatever. But they are the ones who follow Jesus. Jesus saves. This is their God, not ours. Okay? Understand that. This is who the Klan follows, not God's people. So he's talking about serving other gods. So we're getting into that right now. We know that the KKK are about that. Now these are images. This is an image. A statue, a huge statue image. Okay, in case you couldn't see that, you can see it better now. This is a statue image of a man who has his hands up towards, I guess, a building or possibly a area. This is a bull. This is an image as well. All these are images. This is a man standing on the world. Now, this is amazing here because, I mean, this is someone standing on the world, and it looked like it's an image possibly of who the KKK follow, which is Jesus Christ. So I guess they're saying that this image that they've created, which we read earlier, thou shalt not create any, A-N-Y, any images. But I guess the KKK doesn't read the Bible because they are the ones who follow Jesus, or probably are the originators, them in the Roman Church, Roman Catholic Church probably. Okay, now this is an image that in Mosaic time, you remember Aaron when Moses went up on the mount for 40 days and 40 nights, and they corrupted themselves, had Aaron create this image. So these are images. This is an image where there's a golden plate in front where a person can come and put, a donation in. But he's putting it before an image. And that's another image. These are images. There are many types of images out there. Lots of images out there. Okay? And images is anything that's man-made. It does not see, hear, speak, smell, whatever. This is Indiana Jones or Harrison Ford in the movie Indiana Jones. And you notice he's trying to figure out how he can manipulate this trap and get this prize of gold. Greed will always be within the hearts of, I guess you could say, carnal-minded people. They will go out of their way to take something that does not even belong to them, just so that they can go and use it for their own selfish reasons. The reason why this thing shouldn't have been made, because it's an image, number one. As a matter of fact, I have a picture of it, the front of it, if I can find it. But it seems like we're more enticed to take something that doesn't belong to us. It's just something in us, covetousness. That image was put there for a reason. But you always have people wanting to disrupt what someone else has accomplished. I don't understand it. But these are more images. These are just images. These are things that we do not bow down to. These can be gods. Why? Because if you bow yourself down to it, you have made it a god. Okay? If you bow down, if you worship anything, and when I'm saying anything, I'm speaking in reference to even people. Do you know there are people that look to people as if that person were themselves a god? Yes, you have that. Where people look upon people like they're gods. Here you have people that are actually bowing on their knees before man-made objects and images. These things are what is called the Hebrews to get in trouble. But it's amazing that people bow before images, pray to images. Look at these people. They're on their knees. They are on their knees before this image. See, this is why we get in so much trouble. Following after the people of this land. Bowing before an image. Worshipping images. This is a big foot. I think this is an image of like in Indian nations, India maybe possibly, where they have a huge image that has a head of an elephant, but it has a human body. The Egyptians do that. They have what do you call it? Half wolf and half bird heads and stuff with the human body. So they have that. So let's go over this. It says, "Thou shalt serve other gods," which we just looked at. And I'm going to go back because it's a founder. We want to look at some of the founders of the churches as well for a reason. But understand, when you say, "Well, I don't worship money," then if you don't worship money, then I hope you don't worship this, because this is paper. Where do you think paper comes from? Paper is from trees, and trees is wood. I mean, when you put wood in a fireplace, where do you gonna get the wood from? You get it from a tree. Well, some trees produce this paper that you go out there and you rob, kill, and steal for. If you do that, if for the love of money is the root of all evil, understand that if you do anything for money, you got a problem. Because for the love of money is the root of all evil. In a nutshell, for the love of money is the root of all evil, which while some coveted after, they have erred from the faith and pierced themselves through with many sorrows. You know, okay, if somebody throws $1 million into a predatorial environment and say, if you go get that bag of $1 million, it's yours. You know what? Do you know that there are some people that will try to get that money? There are some people that will take that chance. And the people who do go and take that chance will not only end up losing their lives, but the money is going to still be there, or the money is going to be eaten along with them. What sense does it make to become some animal's den and you still didn't get the money? You may as well preserve your life and live a little longer. You know, you may end up winning the lottery or getting the money some other kind of way. I don't know. But why would you put your life on the line for something that is so easily destroyed? Do you know you could tear this up? It's terrible. You could burn it up with fire. I mean, this is so easily so easily disposable, that you would risk your life over something that could be torn in pieces, something that fire could just consume like it's nothing, and you would risk your life for this. But you do have some people that would take that chance. Isn't it amazing? It's just truly amazing. But you'd be surprised what people will do for that, for this wood, because that's where money comes from. It comes from trees, and trees is wood. Okay? Then it says stones. Where do you think diamonds come from? We saw earlier, in a video earlier, the diamonds come from within the earth. Okay? Not just diamonds. Diamonds isn't the only thing that come. It's many types of things. I mean, people even do things for gold. They'll even rob, steal, and all that type of stuff for gold. You know, some people have even made gold a god in their life. So understand that, and gold comes from the earth as well. I mean, I have some videos somewhere. Some images somewhere. Let me see if I can pull up a little something about. Let's see. We'll just say gold found and see what comes up. Gold. Okay, that's a good one. Gold found in rocks, because that's where it comes from. So this is where you can find gold. I mean, there's a huge, that could be a small nugget and they just have it blown up. But this is where this is where you will find these types of elements. Is in the soil, in the rocks, in the mountains, different things like that. You will find all types of stuff. You know, there was one image I was looking for. It might be in here somewhere. You know, where there's gold. I mean, there's some gold nuggets, but gold is just in the soil, within the rocks. Okay, so if you, and believe me, I don't know if I I had to kind of delete one video that, but you're going to find these types of minerals. Here's one here. It's not quite the one I was looking for, but look at that gold. I mean, that's amazing. You find gold is in the soil. I mean, in the rocks, in the mountains, and you will also find gold. I'm sorry, diamonds, as we saw earlier, that they had even found diamonds. So just get on the internet and play. There's all kinds of stuff out here. Have fun looking up stuff. But just don't fall in love with these things. Because when you fall in love, then you're going to create problems for yourself. Okay? Because God is not going to, you're not going to be able to serve God and you're not going to be able to serve God and money. So you're going to have to make a choice. Because if you are idolizing money, then you're going to be in trouble. Because that's what Satan's going to use to keep you off track. Now we're going to get on, and then I'm going to show you how to break the curses. American founders. American religious beliefs of American founders. Well, we're just going to get on American founders. Okay? Because the Bible lets us know